Well, welcome. We are back in the shop, and it's kind of an exciting time. I've got something on the workbench here, and from the title of the video, pretty sure you can tell what's going to go down. So really what we've got here is a OMP Hobby airplane, and this is their Edge 540. I believe it's their Edge 540, pretty sure. So what we're going to do is just go over some basic assembly stuff. For this particular airplane, I am using the Emax ES9258 servos. Normally these are helicopter servos, but the reason I'm using them is because I could not find anything else that would fit these holes. These holes are a weird size, and pretty much any other servo that I could find was like crazy expensive. Crazy expensive. So like in the $40-50 servo range, and it's like, in my opinion, for how I fly, how I plan to fly this airplane, overkill. That's way overkill. So these servos should serve me just fine. I don't fly aerobatics, like super aerobatic. I do precision aerobatic stuff. So these should be more than sufficient. So let's get into just a couple of other things that we're going to do here, and then we'll set you up to just see how I do it. So really what we need to do is I'm going to take this screw. First thing I always do is take a screw and create threads in the wood. Okay, I'm going to create threads in the wood, and then we're going to take some thin CA and we're going to harden those holes. Okay, and then we will install the servo. Now when I install the servo, I will put in these rubber grommets. Yes, these are vibration isolators. Yes, I don't necessarily need them for an electric airplane, but I do use them anyway because that's how the servo is designed to be used. All right. So with that said, when I put in these grommets, okay, I install the grommet with the flat part in the direction of how I'm going to mount the servo. So I would mount it like this. So it goes inside that rubber bushing, and the grommet will go pointing up. The reason I go pointing up is once I put the screw down, I want the screw to have a stop on the sharp end, not on the flat end, because if I had turned this way, the more I tighten the screw, the more that the sharp end is going to dig into the wood. So we're trying to use this as a vibration isolator, so that's what we're doing. Enough chat, let's get working. All right, so we've got the servo installed now, and let me go over just a couple of things. Really, I looked at this. So there's no instructions came with this airplane, so that's sort of why I'm going through this, sharing my knowledge. You know, no sense in having something tribal if I can just share it. So really, what we're doing is we're setting ourselves up. The kit comes with these servo horn extensions that are fiberglass, and we're going to be using actually the disc. So this will get more on that in a bit. So really what we're doing is we're getting ourselves set up, we're looking ahead, and so I could tell that by the offset of the servo and where the servo horn is going to be, that my standard servo horn is not going to cut it. That's way too big of a gap. So that's why I know I'm going to be using that. And it comes with 4 of them. 1 for each servo in this airplane. The other thing that I think is something that is frequently overlooked in assembly of any ARF is the wing bolts. So wing bolts are usually these nylon jobs, and they tend to get stuck in these holes, and they bind up a lot. The reason is that they're just roughly machined. I get a tap, and I actually do this over again, get a much nicer finish. Use oil, go slow, and clean it out, and you'll be left with something that will be far less frustrating in the future. Just a quick tip that I always do, because it's just way easier to do that now rather than being at the field and you're like, well, how does it go in? It's not going in. Really frustrating. So do yourself a favor. Just get it done. So we'll do that, and then we'll be moving on to the servo connection. All right, so you saw me prep the control rods and the control horns. And so the control horns, you saw me apply with some 5-minute epoxy, and I roughed up these surfaces, and I do that regardless of what material you're using. These are fiberglass, but whether they're wood or plastic, if you've got this type of control horn that is glued in with epoxy, I always use epoxy. Never use wood glue or CA. The thing you have to keep in mind is what's your application. So if I were to be doing like crazy aerobatics with this, I would probably be using 15 or 30-minute epoxy. I am not, so I'm using 5. It'll be fine. My experience has shown it will be fine. Cleanup is simple with some basic isopropyl alcohol and a paper towel. You can only do that trick if the epoxy has not cured yet. If it's cured already, you're out of luck. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Just smear it on there on the control horn and stick it in the pocket, and then wipe away with some isopropyl alcohol until it's all gone. Other than that, we also have the wing tip. It's like these fences that go on the edges of the wings. So there are some thumb screws and washers that are in its place. The only other thing that you can really do to work on the wing is touch up with the covering iron. That's really for like pinstripes or something initially. Most of the time, these ARFs are coming pretty well covered, to be frankly honest with you. Any major stuff is going to be pretty inconsequential until you really get it out in the sun and see how it shrinks. So I would wait to do like big stuff until after you've flown the model and had it out at the field. So the last thing I'm going to do next is now that the control horns are cured, I'm going to connect the control rod, making sure that my servo tester is keeping my servo center, And I'm going to keep my aileron center while I do that so that everything is true and square and ready to go, and just plug in and I can program my rates from there. We'll never have to think about it. And then we'll be done. So let me put you back on the tripod and we'll finish this out. Always have a magnet in your shop for picking up little things you drop. All right, guys, that'll do for now. I've got the wings back in their wing bag, and if you do have wing bags, this airplane came with wing bags, which is a really nice touch. Make sure you put the wings in the wing bag with the servo control horns pointing up. Don't have them point to the center because they can puncture through or vibrate through and poke a hole in your wing, and that's not a good day. Not a good day. So, with that said, we've covered some basic things. I'm assuming that you know how to deal with basic connectors. These are ball link connectors on the servos. Same thing goes for Z-bends. I'm not covering every single little thing here, but you get the point. Everything's methodical, everything has purpose, and just a couple of things along the way, like, putting the CA inside the holes before you put the screws in so that it's nice and hard for your screws and they don't just rip right out of the wood. So lots of little things like that along the way. All right, guys. So until next time, continue to assemble or just work on carefully your flying works of art.